Record Store Nation, welcome to the Record Store. And this is a very special episode. I know it's Rocktober. I know it's I Wanna Rocktober. But this is a really special episode for me personally. If you'll indulge me for a moment, this is the 50th episode of this. And that just really says something to me that the music just means so much to me that I want to keep on doing this for as long as I can possibly do this. So thank you guys for bearing with it and sticking with it and downloading old episodes and keeping up with the new episodes. The fact that I've hit 50 of doing these is just really something I'm extremely proud of. So, and for the record, buy the book. I haven't plugged the book lately. So it's All the Right Notes on Amazon.com. You've heard it so notoriously mentioned on social media lately. You have to see what all the fuss is about. So All the Right Notes on Amazon, check it out. I think it's on sale for like $15, so you can definitely get that at a really reduced rate. So, and you can help me keep ramen on the table for me and my children and my dog. So, although she doesn't eat ramen, I should say. But anyway, thank you for Bonehead Responsibility for playing us in. Those guys are amazing. They've never gotten their just desserts in the world of music. Indie label guys that just never really got any airplay. Bonehead Responsibility. I am here to promote them today because they did a hell of a job singing us in. So anyway, this is the 50th episode of The Record Store, and you know it's Rocktober. You know it's I Wanna Rocktober. And so we are saluting hair bands and hair metal bands this month. And so this week's selection, I should say, and you know, we're taking over the whole network this month. So you are going to be hearing about hair metal bands for the next couple weeks, until we have a really interesting, fun episode at the very end of the month. So, this week we are saluting Poison, and the name of the album is Look What the Cat Dragged In. Poison is a huge guilty pleasure of mine. Look What the Cat Dragged In was their first album in 1986. Again, hair metal really ruled 80s and 90s until it started sputtering because of grunge and alternative, as the theories all go. So Look What the Cat Dragged In was their first album, came out in 86. Hard to believe, Poison only had 7 albums. They were very spread out. They started in 86 with this one, and their most recent, I guess you would say, was called Poisoned in 2007. So they really spanned the years with those 7 albums from 86 to 2007. Pretty much the same 4 guys that were synonymous with Poison most of the way through. Bret Michaels is probably the most well-known. Ricky Rocket, Bobby Dahl, and CeCe DeVille as the other 3 members of Poison, who some of those guys have gotten on some reality shows. I know I remember seeing CeCe DeVille on something. So they formed in 83 in Pennsylvania. They went on to sell over 55 million albums, so pretty cool. Like Motley Crue, you know, glam metal, you know, they had the dyed hair, the feathered hair, the makeup. They had all the trappings and all the look of the hair metal bands from the 80s and 90s. Numerous hits. Every Rose Has Its Thorn, Talk Dirty to Me, Nothing But a Good Time. So many great songs that really were so catchy and really caught on. They were named, I thought this was a funny honor, they were named VH1's #1 hair band of the 80s. So, and they had a total of 28 singles. So I think they did very well for themselves. And technically, I think they're still around, technically, because they still tour. So they just haven't recorded anything officially as Poison since 2007. They started out in 83 by the name of Paris. The name of the band was Paris when they were still in Pennsylvania. And a small trivia note, Bob Welch, the late guitarist from Fleetwood Mac, one of his original bands was also named Paris. So I think just a coincidence. I don't think there's any copyright bullshit going on there, but just a coincidence, because by the time that they were forming as Paris in 1983, Bob Welch had already come and gone from Fleetwood Mac at that point. So Paris was long in his rearview mirror. So anyway, so Poison or Paris got real big locally in Pennsylvania, hit the club circuit there, made a name for themselves in some town I'd never heard of in Pennsylvania, Mechanicsburg, I think it was. But they knew they had no growth potential there, and they had to get out of Mechanicsburg or whatever the hell the name of the city was in Pennsylvania. They knew they had to hit the bright lights of LA, so they did. They went west. They went to LA. And it's a famous story. You may have heard it already, but their original guitarist quit the band. I think he wanted to move on and have a family, didn't like the direction they were taking the band in. But so the original guitarist quit. They held auditions to replace him, and the auditions came down to Slash and CC DeVille. So very bizarre that Slash was, a guy playing clubs in LA at the time, and was this close to becoming a member of Poison. So it came down to Slash and CC DeVille. They initially did not like CC DeVille. They thought he was brash. He was a loud New Yorker. He was a bad fit for the band because of his attitude. But eventually they did pick him over Slash. They felt that he, despite the fact that he was not a likable guy per se, he was a better fit for them musically. And so the musical style. And you can see that because Poison and Guns N' Roses, as much as they're both metal bands in a sense, two totally different types of bands and two totally different types of music. So anyway, so I think they made the right choice. Slash went on to enormous things in Guns N' Roses, and obviously Poison became a big deal with CC DeVille on most of those albums. So anyway, Look What the Cat Dragged In was self-financed by them. They had no takers. They were like not getting anywhere with record labels. So they financed it themselves. They were living in their cars and eating bologna sandwiches to get by because they poured all their money into making this album. And fortunately, it finally got picked up by a small label in LA. They were discovered by MTV with that glam look that they had, and they were made. They exploded. So interesting couple of legal issues. These bands always have legal issues, so we got to have the legal issues here. Bret Michaels was in many brawls, had many lawsuits filed against him. Does not come across as a guy like that, but I guess maybe he was something of a badass back in the day. He just turned 60, so not so much of a bad. Well, maybe he is still a badass. Who knows? Anyway, so they were sued, or he was sued for $1 million by a record executive for dumping drinks and ice on her head at a party. So that one was settled out of court. And they were also sued by a band called Easy Action because they allegedly lifted a chorus from an Easy Action song. And that one, too, was settled out of court. So they admitted to nothing, although, they did pay the one woman, the one record executive, for having drinks dumped on her head. So, but in terms of like bad boy type stuff for a heavy metal rock band, pretty mild stuff there. So first album, this one, Look What the Cat Dragged In, did really well. The next couple albums did even better. The two albums that followed it were huge hits for them. They did basically a 2-year tour. They were on the road from 90 to 92 for like almost 2 consecutive years touring the world. And by the time it was all said and done, they hated each other, and many addiction issues had formed for all of these guys. So just at the end of this grind of this 2-year tour on the road, they needed a break from each other. In 93, CC DeVille was fired for unexplained reasons. I'm guessing had something to possibly do with the addiction situation. But anyway, so he was fired in 93. They went on to do their 4th album in 93, which was called Native Tongue. Did not do as well as the first 3 albums. The guy who replaced DeVille, a guy by the name of Richie Kotzen, actually, he was fired as well after because he had the misfortune and the poor judgment of having an affair with Ricky Rocket's fiancée. So he was fired and replaced by yet another guitarist, and because this doofus couldn't keep it in his pants when it came to one of the other band members' fiancées, for crying out loud. So some other turmoil. Bret Michaels seriously hurt in a car accident in 94, but managed to recover from that. DeVille was actually brought back to the band in 96. So because apparently, having the other goof come and have an affair with one of your bandmates made him look like a bigger villain than CC DeVille. So DeVille was brought back in 96. Pretty much into the 2000s, mostly a lot of solo albums. Bret Michaels has done a bunch of stuff, dabbled in country. Some of the other guys have done some solo projects as well, and lots of greatest hits collections. They did a number of greatest hits collections, re-recordings, and different versions of their existing catalog. They did an album. I thought this was really interesting. I'm gonna have to go back and see if I can find this, but they did an album of fan-selected covers in 2007, and so that was the one called "Poisoned," with a apostrophe D at the end. So I'm gonna have to go back and see if I can find that because that sounds really interesting to hear Poison do a bunch of covers. You've probably heard about all the health issues with Bret Michaels. He had an emergency appendectomy, a brain hemorrhage at one point. He suffers from diabetes. So I look at this guy as a total survivor. I really like Bret Michaels. I've always liked Bret Michaels. He did a really good song with Stevie Nicks too. He comes across to me. He won me over on Celebrity Apprentice, I gotta say. And I've said it before, Trump, asshole as a president, but really good as a host of Celebrity Apprentice. If he would have just left well enough alone and stuck with that, I'd have been fine with Trump, but had no business being our president. But on Celebrity Apprentice, he did a great job. So, but Bret Michaels was on there, did really well on there, and came across super likable. And so he pretty much, I had already liked Poison, obviously, but he pretty much won me over as a man, as a fan of Bret Michaels on that show. I look at him as a kinder, gentler version of Kid Rock. I know Kid Rock is very polarizing. Kid Rock had some great songs, but I know he does so much political stuff and he shoots his mouth off and gets people to hate him. Whereas Bret Michaels, similar type of guy and similar music in a sense, but just a much more likable guy. So anyway, they've still been touring a lot, and back to the original four guys, they've done a ton of touring especially after COVID. Mostly the multi-band acts, that type of touring with Motley Crue, with the likes of like Cheap Trick and Cinderella, Great White, that type of, those types of guys or bands rather, is the type of people they tour with. Lita Ford. So they do a bunch of those shows where it's like 3 or 4 bands and they are one of those acts. And a shout out to Brian. I am going to reveal their real names because, they're obviously Ricky Rocket, come on, Bobby Dahl. So I'm going to reveal not only their real names, but also on this album, on Look What the Cat Dragged In, I'm going to tell you what their credits say they did. So Bret Michael, as you can guess, that's his first and his middle name. So his real name is Bret Michael Sychak, and it says he is vocalizing and socializing on the album. Ricky Rocket is Richard Allen Ream, and it says he's the drummer, so it says Sticks, Tricks, and Lipstick Fix. So Bobby Dahl is Robert Harry Kirkendall. So get it, Bobby Dahl, Bobby Kirkendall. So it says bass rapin' and heartbreakin' for him. And again, this is the 80s, so that's why we're going there. And then CC DeVille, the weirdest name of all of them, Bruce Anthony Johansson. So I'm not sure where he gets CC DeVille. That was just thrown together. But CC DeVille, Bruce Anthony Johansson, guitar screeching and hair bleaching is what he is credited for on the album. So Look What the Cat Dragged In hit number 3 on the Billboard charts, had 4 singles come from it. Less success worldwide than it did in the States. In the States, it blew up immediately, but worldwide, it took them a while to catch on. They finally caught on after a while. Album is only 33 minutes. It's 10 songs. The pictures on the album, honestly, they are so glammed up and they are so over the top makeup on these guys to the point where they almost you could almost say drag queen kind of look to these guys on this album cover. But honestly, it took me a while to figure out which one of these guys even was Bret Michaels because they look so much different than what those guys actually truly look like, especially today. Bobby Dahl on the album cover looks just like Paul Stanley. If you look at him, the hair, the makeup, everything matches an unmasked Paul Stanley, as it were. And honestly, Bret Michaels, once I got down in process of elimination and figured out which one was Bret Michaels, he looks a lot more like David Lee Roth than he does look like Bret Michaels in these pictures. So anyway, starting the album out, it starts out with a song called Cry Tough. And looking at the lyrics, for the record, the lyrics come with the album, and they are microscopic on the album. So I had to look it up online because there's no way I was going to be able to read this. They're absolutely tiny. So Cry Tough is the first song on the album, and it was one of the singles. And the first thing when you're looking at the lyrics, the first thing you notice is, man, there's a lot of lyrics here. This is, it's refreshing to see. Instantly you get the fun Poison sound coming from these guys from this song. This song, Cry Tough, comes across as very uplifting, very go for your dreams, kind of an anthem type song. So already classier and deeper than Motley Crue, which we covered last week. So I thought that Cry Tough had a really great message, a great perseverance, go for it, hard work and effort will make it make it happen. You know, it's just the tale of a hard work and a successful situation because hard work goes into it. Nothing at all embarrassing about this song. Just a very positive, uplifting message, I thought. So this song had me asking, why was Poison lumped in with all these other hair metal bands? I thought just this song alone had such a more positive and uplifting message than anything you normally hear from metal bands or hair metal bands. So I think they were lumped in because of their look, obviously. This was the first single. I thought it totally should have clicked. You know, it's been many, many years since I've heard this song. I thought, boy, that song should have clicked. And it did because it was a successful single for them. So Cry Tough, good, strong opener for the album. Second song is called I Want Action. Was another single. And now we get back to the groupie thing. You know, now we go the groupie route. But I will say there wasn't very much of that on this album. So this song was one of the only ones that went that route. So he's singing about being out cruising to pick up a girl. He's not looking for a love that'll last. And if he can't have her, he'll just take her. That's how he says it. So I'm like thinking, okay, Bret Michaels, times have changed, and I'm guessing you've probably retired this song from your song set list because I cannot see you doing that song with a line like, if I can't have her, I'll take her. I can't see you doing that in 2023. So after, the one song, Cry Tough, I was ready to anoint these guys as much classier than Motley Crue, but then I kind of have to backtrack a little bit after I Want Action, because the action that he wants is pretty much the action that you can assume that he wanted. So, all right, then the third song is called I Won't Forget You. It was another single, you may remember it. Kind of a bluesy, acoustic open, very laid back. Just a great song. It's about a breakup, but just a really good song. I thought Michaels had a really good voice, fit this material really nicely because some of the melodic stuff that they did just had such great harmonies. And this song is the epitome of some really good Poison. The harmonies on this were very creative, and I thought they sounded very much like something out of the 60s, and I thought it fit in on this song. I feel like I Won't Forget You had a lot going on. It had a lot of various different types of elements to it, and yet it all came together really well. And the song is actually a real highlight for me because it doesn't fit in with what you would expect rather from a hair metal band. It does not sound like something you would hear from these guys. And if you heard this song and didn't know it was Poison, you'd be like, thinking of some other much more highly thought of band than Poison. But just a great effort. I Won't Forget You, just especially when you consider that this is their debut album too. I thought just way deeper than anything you heard on that Motley Crue album. And I can't say, if this song would have come out not on the debut album, this song would be a single that people, like fans of theirs, would say, oh, they sold out. I used to like Poison, but they sold out. This is a song that's on their very first album, so you can't accuse them of selling out because I Won't Forget You is a great, great song and fits in nicely on this album. So really good effort in the third spot. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to pay some sponsors. We're going to say I Want a Rocktober about 7 more times on this episode, so get used to it. Order the book while we're on break. Order the book. I Won't Forget You. All the right notes on Amazon.com, and we will pay these sponsors, listen to their kind words, and the fact that they help us keep the lights on in the studio, and we'll be right back with side 2 of Look What the Cat Dragged In by Poison.